If you've ever felt like you get overwhelmed too easily, if anxiety feels like a constant undercurrent in your life, if you're constantly overstimulated by things that others don't even really seem to notice, or maybe you've just lived in a state of tension and anxiety for so long that you've just accepted that as your life, this episode is for you. Welcome to Ebbs and Flows with Erin. In this show, we're getting real about navigating the ups and downs of life together. I'm your host, Erin, and we're ditching the pressure to have it all figured out along the way because honestly, nobody does. We'll explore all things healing, growing, creating, and connecting. And if you deal with anxiety, depression, being a highly sensitive person, or just feeling overwhelmed by life sometimes, I see you, and this show is for you. My intention with these conversations is simple: to leave you feeling empowered, validated, and most importantly, reminded that you are never alone, no matter where you're at on your own journey. Learning that we all have the power to heal genuinely changed my life. And the best part, healing does not have to be complicated. The smallest changes really can make the biggest impact, and it can be joyful, fulfilling, and something that we do together. So join me in getting real about what it means to heal. Thank you for being here, and now let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to Ebbs and Flows with Erin, or welcome back to Ebbs and Flows with Erin. I am your host, Erin, and I am so grateful to have you here today with me, whether you are listening or watching over on YouTube. And today we are diving into a topic that I've had many conversations about and I have related to deeply in my life, and that is highly sensitive people and anxiety. So we're going to talk about why this happens, the link between anxiety and being a highly sensitive person, what it means, and most importantly, what you can do about it. Now, we have several past episodes where I talk about anxiety as someone who is diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and depression 8 years ago now. Our last episode was my go-to anxiety tips and tools for both long-term management, daily tips and tools, and for in moments of heightened anxiety after being 1 year free of Effexor, which I have a whole series that I kicked this podcast off with talking about my experience on Effexor. And we have a whole highly sensitive person episode already on the podcast. These are two things that pretty much define how I've experienced life for my past 30 years. Although I've gotten more of a hold on the anxiety part over the last couple of years, I am a highly sensitive person. And this is something that I always knew about myself. I didn't necessarily know there was a term for it. I didn't know what it was called. I didn't know it was a legitimate trait. I didn't know that others experienced the same thing. But since I can remember, I knew that there was something different about me. I knew that I seemed to feel things more deeply than most others around me. I knew that I felt affected by things more deeply or noticed things that others didn't really even seem to notice or care about or be affected by. I knew that I felt like I was too much, being told to toughen up or loosen up or not be so sensitive. And if you've heard or felt these things, you likely are a highly sensitive person as well. And we're going to get into, first of all, what is a highly sensitive person? What does that mean? And why anxiety often comes with being a highly sensitive person, and when you don't have tools or awareness to support yourself as a highly sensitive person, because it's not a weakness. We just have to know how to support ourselves with this trait. And when you don't, you quickly can fall into having anxiety because all of the stimulation and the overwhelm builds up in your body. And that turns into anxiety in physical symptoms, mental symptoms, emotional symptoms. But the good news is that there are so many things we can do to help manage this and to lean into more of the beautiful, positive side of being a highly sensitive person. Because my number one message I want to emphasize is that it's not a weakness. Your sensitivities are your superpowers, and it does not always feel that way, but it's true. So let's get into it. So understanding the link between sensitivity and anxiety. If you're a highly sensitive person or an HSP, your nervous system is wired differently. Science shows that highly sensitive people process sensory information more deeply, which means that your brain is constantly taking in more noise, more emotion, more energy, and processing it in a much deeper way. So when your nervous system is constantly on, it can start to feel like you're living in a constant state of fight or flight or freeze. And that's where anxiety creeps in and can start to spiral. Now, this does not mean that you are broken. It does not mean that you're weak, although that's probably what you've heard for the majority of your life. It just means that you need different support than most others, and a different way of relating to the world around you, a different lens to look through, and the awareness and the self-compassion to show up for yourself and create the support that you know that you need to make the most of this life that you're living and support yourself in the world that we're living in. Something that my therapist talked to me about was that a lot of the things that hurt us growing up in childhood, especially as highly sensitive people, a lot of the time we internalize it as that something was wrong with us, that we are flawed. But a lot of the time it's that systems just aren't or were not set up in a way to support highly sensitive people or people with different needs than the average, quote unquote, person. And it doesn't mean that you're flawed. You just didn't have the support that you needed or maybe still need. But as you get older and become an adult and start to take your own healing and your own life experience is in your hands and your responsibility, you have the power to support yourself and find ways to do that, to allow yourself to not feel like a victim of life all of the time, constantly living in tension and anxiety and feeling like there's something wrong with you. So again, one thing that I really want to emphasize here is that your sensitivity is not a flaw. It is not something that you need to toughen up or get over. It is actually a unique, beautiful strength. It means that you're more creative, you're more intuitive, you're more empathetic, emotionally intelligent. There are so many beautiful strengths that come with being a highly sensitive person. And trust me, it took me a long time to recognize that in myself. But once you do and you start to support yourself and your needs, you can experience a whole different version of life and a lot less anxiety and tension. So while there are all of these beautiful aspects and strengths about being a highly sensitive person, it also means that you are more easily overstimulated and overwhelmed. I know in my life, I would say that I was chronically overwhelmed. Like I did not feel like I could ever get ahead or reach a point of feeling genuinely tension-free, and I felt like things that shouldn't overwhelm me or overstimulate me were constantly overwhelming and overstimulating me, and I'd feel burnt out, exhausted, anxious. The anxiety, well, if you're a listener of the podcast, you know how that went, but constantly feeling overstimulated and overwhelmed is normal as a highly sensitive person. And again, that's why we just need the tools to support ourselves, because that does not have to be your story. Because we do live in a world that rewards the hustle culture, constant noise, constant stimulation. And of course, that's going to lead to anxiety for someone who feels everything so deeply, is wired to take in more information and process it more deeply at all times. It's like you are a computer that is running in overdrive all day long and all night long. And the fan of the computer is starting to get really hot and overload. And eventually, sometimes your computer just completely shuts down. As a highly sensitive person, that's what it's like when you don't have any tools to support yourself. You eventually burn out or crash out or have some sort of breakdown, because you can only take in more and more and more and more for so long before your system needs to shut down and restart. And sometimes you find that out the hard way, which I can relate to. But you don't need to. And that's what this episode is here for, to give some tools so that you can start to support yourself today. And it will change the way you experience this life as a highly sensitive person. I promise you. Okay, so let's just go through a few signs that you might be a highly sensitive person who's struggling with anxiety. So if you're feeling unsure, you can start recognizing when your system might be overloaded. So for example, and again, I have a whole Am I a Highly Sensitive Person episode with signs and tools to empower yourself. But just quickly, some signs are that you replay conversations or overanalyze things long after they happen. You ruminate in your thoughts. And you might be thinking, well, isn't that everyone? Doesn't everyone do that sometimes? As a highly sensitive person dealing with anxiety, especially, this happens with pretty much everything you do throughout your day. It can be the smallest little interaction, the smallest thing, the most mundane things you are overanalyzing and replaying over and over in your mind, which is exhausting. Another sign is that you get overwhelmed in busy places like grocery stores, parties, airports, pretty much anywhere with human beings. I know for myself, when I was struggling the most, and before I had come to the point of learning how to support myself as a highly sensitive person with anxiety, I began to just avoid going places because I didn't want to experience the anxiety and the overwhelm that came with it. Or I know growing up, I would get home from being at school all day and friends might ask me to come hang out, come do something, and I would lie and say that my mom wouldn't let me. But I genuinely was just so excited and happy to just be at home in my safe space, in my room, by myself, with only my own thoughts and only my own energy to decompress. Another sign is that you need more alone time than it seems like others might need, but sometimes you feel guilty about it because, again, it doesn't seem like others need the same amount of alone time you need, so you start to wonder if there's something wrong with you for needing it, and you feel guilty because you should be spending time with this person, this person, this person doing this. And if you don't get your alone time, you quickly can start to feel the irritability, the anxiety, the overwhelm. Another sign is that you pick up on the emotions of others very easily, and you can sometimes start to confuse them for your own. And it is often found that highly sensitive people tend to be people that others might come to talk about anything to, maybe vent, maybe come with a problem to solve, come to for advice, or they just feel safe to talk to you about things. No one's coming in a malicious way to dump on you. Well, maybe they are, but most of the time, no one's coming to intentionally dump on you, but you naturally can give off the energy that it's safe to come to you with things. And that's where highly sensitive people can confuse the emotions of others and the energy of others for their own, because you are a safe person for so many people, but at the same time, you're so energetically sensitive that you can start to confuse others' emotions for your own. Okay, another sign is that loud noises, bright lights, certain textures of clothing, certain textures of food, environmental factors feel unbearable at times. And this one has always rang, well, they all have rang true for me, but this one especially, I hate a big light, an overhead light. I hate a white light or an LED light. I will pretty much 100% of the time either be in a robe or a sweatsuit when you see me if you're watching on YouTube, because I have to be comfortable. I have to put comfort first when it comes to clothes. Pants that are not comfortable are leg prisons, and comfort is key. Even jewelry, like having rings on, I love the look of stacking rings. I cannot do that. Or at least I can't do it for more than like a couple hours without going insane with overstimulation. So yeah, textures of things, loud noises, bright lights. If you're out at a meal with people, like more than one person, the conversation around the table can be really overstimulating for you. One that I'm reminded of almost daily when I'm cooking in my kitchen is the overhead fan above your stove. The feeling of getting to turn that fan off, I always take the biggest sigh and I'm like, oh my God, that was so overstimulating. And sometimes you don't even realize in the moment that these things are overstimulating you until they are removed from your environment and you're like, oh my God, that is like a weight off my shoulders. So environmental factors can be overstimulating and overwhelming. And the last sign I want to talk about for now is you feel like your anxiety doesn't make sense, but it still shows up anyways. As a highly sensitive person, for all of the signs we just listed, these are all reasons that anxiety can show up and it might not make sense to you. You might not understand why you're feeling tension and anxiety when you don't understand that you are wired to take in more information and process it more deeply than most others around you. And now that I'm saying most others around you, I forgot to give the statistic about the percentage of the population, but it's said that anywhere from 15 to 30% of the population are highly sensitive people. So that's not a very large amount. So that's why I'm saying most others around you, because it's not a majority of the population that is a highly sensitive person. But yes, you can feel like your anxiety doesn't make sense, but it's constantly showing up and you don't know why, and it's defeating and it's exhausting. But the reality is you're taking in and you're taking on so much. And when you don't have tools in place to support yourself and to protect yourself energetically, emotionally, physically, you inevitably are going to feel anxious and eventually going to burn out or break down. And if this sounds like you, I promise you're not alone and there is nothing wrong with you. You are just sensitive, and sensitive, that word has such a negative connotation, like it immediately makes you think of being weak, but it does not mean that. It does not mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you need to toughen up. This is something you can work with, not against. There are so many things we can do to work with it and take advantage of all the positives and the strengths that come with it. Coming from someone who absolutely experienced feeling weak and overwhelmed, overstimulated, burnt out, experiencing living life without any tools or awareness to support myself in this life, I can confidently tell you that utilizing the tools that we're going to get into will change the way that you experience this life, and tension and anxiety and overwhelm and overstimulation do not have to be your story forever. So let's talk about what you can actually do to support yourself as a highly sensitive person experiencing anxiety and tension. These are a few tools that have helped me and others in this community who are highly sensitive. Number one is daily nervous system check-ins. I continue to talk about nervous system regulation in every episode of this podcast, and I mentioned in the last one, but the nervous system regulation series is coming. It will probably start with the next episode of this podcast because I am going to Italy for 2 weeks, and I'm going to pre-record the 2 episodes that I will be gone for, and I think they're going to be part of the nervous system regulation series. That is a goal I'm setting for myself. As this date to fly to Italy comes closer, I'm feeling like I'm trying to set the bar a little bit too high and push too much into my schedule before leaving. But anyways, that's a tangent, but I could be lying here. But I'm aiming to have the nervous system regulation series happening over the next several weeks. So we'll get more in depth into all of the tools and modalities for nervous system regulation because it is the number one root of all healing, growth, and change. It is the number one thing that you need to be doing to support yourself. And I do have a nervous system regulation tools episode. It's my most listened to episode. It's episode 4 of this podcast. So you can listen to that, but I'm going to go more in depth in this series. Anyways, the number one tip, daily nervous system regulation check-ins. So start by asking yourself, maybe in the morning, at any checkpoint in the day that makes sense for you, that you're going to be able to be consistent with, where you know, oh, time to do my check-in, or maybe it's more than once a day. So ask yourself, what does my body feel like right now? What do I need in this moment to feel safe or grounded? So maybe you just get still for a moment, take a couple deep breaths, and listen to what your body is feeling like. Because your nervous system needs you to slow down. Slowing down and just taking a moment to do this little check-in is regulating your nervous system. Even a 30-second pause to breathe or stretch, get some water can help calm your system. If you're someone who sits down and works all day, taking little micro breaks to breathe, genuinely just do like 5 deep breaths or get up and stretch for like 3 minutes, sip on your water or make a tea, get up and jump up and down, shake your body around. It's about taking a moment to be intentional with just listening to your body and giving it whatever it is asking for in that moment. So again, you can listen to our nervous system regulation episode and look out for the series where I'm going to go way more in depth on that. But as a highly sensitive person, it's all about our nervous system. It's wired differently. It's wired to take in more at all times and process more deeply at all times. So while nervous system regulation is important for everyone, as a highly sensitive person, it is extra crucial to show some love to your nervous system and support your nervous system in any little way that you can. Start small so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming, because then we don't end up making a habit of it when it's overwhelming. Start with small little micro habits to check in with yourself and slow down, move your body. That is really going to help you with anxiety as a highly sensitive person. The next tool is to create sensory breaks. So overstimulation and overwhelm are the 2 biggest struggles we face as highly sensitive people with highly sensitive nervous systems. There is constantly an overload of stimulation coming at us in this world. So throughout your day, try to schedule tiny sensory resets. It doesn't have to be anything crazy like I'm going the week without my phone or something that feels too daunting and too extreme to do, or that you're going to do it once and then go back to your old habits once you've done that detox. You can do little things like dim the lights in your house, use the night mode filter on your laptop and your phone screen, light a candle or light candles instead of using overhead lights, step outside and get away from the screens if you're someone who works with screens, unplug for like 5 minutes. go on a walk and don't put in headphones and listen to music or a podcast. Or you can start even smaller, where if you're someone who, when you're watching TV, you're also scrolling on your phone, try to just use one screen at a time. You don't have to completely cut them out, but if you're watching TV, just watch TV. If you're scrolling on your phone, you're scrolling on your phone. Or not even just scrolling. If you're doing work or whatever on your phone, only be on your phone. I, for the last 8 months now, have been doing this setting on my phone. I can show you if you're watching on YouTube. It's a red light setting. So after 6 p.m., I have set it a shortcut on my phone so that you just have to tap the side button on your phone 3 times, and it turns on the red light filter on your phone, taking away all the blue light. I'm holding it up on YouTube so you can see. I'll show you the difference. So that's it. Oh, that's so bright. That's it without the red light filter. And that's it with the red light filter. I've had so many people see this on my phone and be like, what the hell is going on with your phone light? Because it does look different. It takes a minute to get used to. But as a highly sensitive person, I don't need more blue light than I get being someone who works on a computer for the majority of the day. So if I can take that away by, okay, maybe I'm not off of my phone all evening, but I at least have the blue light turned off completely on it, that is a little sensory break. Another thing that I've talked about before is NSDR, non-sleep deep rest protocol. Dr. Andrew Huberman has 2 on YouTube, a 20-minute version and a 10-minute version. And these you can do at any time of day. And it's a great little sensory reset, sensory break for your nervous system. And especially if you're feeling low energy or depleted or need a little pick-me-up in the morning or afternoon or the evening, you can do one of those protocols, which helps with neuroplasticity as well. And you're not being lazy by taking these sensory breaks. You might feel that way, again, based on the culture we live in. And if you're someone who works on screens for the most of your day, you can feel like, oh, well, I have so much to do. I need to be getting this done. But what I've noticed is that when I actually allow myself to take little micro breaks, little sensory breaks, I'm more productive overall, rather than if I just try and stare at my screen for 8 hours a day and try and power through things. So you're not being lazy, you're creating space for your nervous system to recalibrate. And that allows you to show up as your greatest, most productive, most creative self in the end. Number 3 is to ground and clear your energy. We know that everything is energy, and if you're a highly sensitive person experiencing anxiety, you are deeply attuned to the energy of everything around you. We have a whole grounding exercises episode. I give 10 different exercises you can do for grounding. But something simple you can do is to just, for a few moments, close your eyes, visualize your feet rooted into the earth like a tree, shake your limbs out, jump up and down. Shaking your body, if you're experiencing anxiety symptoms specifically, is a really powerful tool to use that isn't talked about enough, I feel like. But you're literally shaking out the energy. And when you're having anxiety, you're having an overload of energy. So shaking out your limbs, doing a body scan and breathing in. And when you're breathing in, imagine you're breathing in a clear, revitalizing light, some life force energy. And then when you're breathing out, imagine you're breathing out. I like to visualize a gray energy, and that's breathing out all of the stress, tension, negative, stagnant, foreign energy that is not mine to hold. You can visualize a cord cutting, so visualize literally the cords of all the energy that is not yours to hold being cut and removed from you. You can go as deep or as simplified as you like when it comes to grounding practices. It's really just about the intention of coming back to your own energy, calling your energy back to yourself. One practice that a healer I saw taught me that is so simple to use, literally you can be in the grocery store, you can be anywhere, is to just take your fingers, tap on the side of your thigh, and just say your name and that you're calling your energy back to yourself. And you can visualize a white bubble of light protecting you, surrounding you, letting go of any energy that is not yours to hold. The first time I saw a healer when I hadn't learned much about being a highly sensitive person, and she told me, oh, you need to be clearing your energy every single day. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes we can overcomplicate our tools and our rituals, and they can end up feeling like chores, or they can end up feeling kind of stressful to have to do. But it's really just about setting the intention to release any energy that is not yours to hold and to ground yourself in your own energy for your highest good. So a simple phrase that I say every day of my life is I release all negative, stagnant, foreign energy that is not mine to hold that I may have picked up from people, places, or things throughout the day. I call my energy back home to myself for my highest good. And that's it. Simple, easy. And when it comes to energy healing, there are so many energy healing practices you can do that are simple and effective. And I like to share them on Instagram. I'll share them on here. I'm a Reiki master, so having Reiki channeled to you or channeling to yourself if you are attuned. I channel Reiki to myself every day to balance my energy and the energy of things around me. You can book a distance Reiki energy healing session with me. It's always linked in the show notes below. You can book it for yourself or your animals. Animals are even more energetically sensitive than we are as humans, so distance energy healing is ideal for them to be in their most comfortable space. But that is why I felt called to becoming a Reiki master. Well, first a Reiki practitioner and then a master, was when I learned that it brings balance to your energy and balance to your nervous system. The word balance really stood out to me as a highly sensitive person because I knew that that was a tool that I really needed to help support myself, was something that could help me to balance my energies because, as I said, I felt like I was chronically overwhelmed in life and I did not know what balance felt like. So I had Reiki channeled to me before, and I thought to myself, if I had the ability to do this to myself daily or whenever I could, this would be an absolute game changer as a highly sensitive person with anxiety, and it was. Everything is energy. That can't be denied. And especially as a highly sensitive person, you are more sensitive to the energy of everything around you. So having a practice to cleanse and ground your energy and balance your energy, which is balancing your nervous system, is going to change your life. Okay, next tool is to use your breath, which can be so annoying to hear. I've said this before in past episodes. As someone with anxiety and tension for so long, when I would try and do things like yoga or breathing practices and people would say, you need to connect to your breath, you need to connect to your breath, I would get so frustrated because I'm like, I cannot breathe deeply because my breath was so stuck shallow in my chest. But I promise the more that you practice, the more of a capacity you'll have to be able to breathe deeply. And you can pair breath work with meditation. So I'm a meditation teacher. I offer guided meditations with the full moon. And I like to start out with doing a few deep breaths. And if you deal with anxiety especially, sometimes you want to start with an exhale before your inhale. And that can help to make space for you to be able to breathe more deeply. So if anxiety is hitting, you can try the 4-7-8 breath, which is inhale for 4, hold for 7, and exhale for 8, and repeat that for a few rounds to help reset your nervous system. You can try the physiological sigh, which we've talked about, which is breathing in deeply through your nose, followed by a second sharp inhale through your nose, and then a long exhale through your mouth through thinly pursed lips. Those are my two favorite breathing practices to use for anxiety, and trust me, I get it that it can feel frustrating when you don't feel like you have the capacity to be doing deep breathing, but that is exactly why you need to do it, because it's a muscle that you need to work on, you need to practice, you need to build, and it is so worth it to do. Your breath is the quickest, most accessible tool you can use for healing, and you can use to shift the state that you're in. So when you're feeling anxious, looking to your breath. If you're feeling a lot of anger, looking to your breath. If you're feeling any sort of emotion that you want to shift out of, using your breath is the most accessible tool that you have. It's the most powerful tool you have, and it doesn't have to be super complicated is the best part. And the meditation aspect helps with the mental rumination that can come with being a highly sensitive person and experiencing anxiety, because meditation helps to still your mind, allow your thoughts to come, but not to attach to them and spiral in them, which is what happens with anxiety most of the time, is a thought will come and then we attach to it and we spiral in it. And that's where we get the intrusive thoughts, the spiraling thoughts, the negative thought loops, the rumination. And our thoughts are not facts, and we don't have to believe them. 95% of them come from our subconscious mind, which is all based on past conditioning, which as a highly sensitive person can especially apply to thoughts like, why am I like this? Why can't I be like everyone else? Why can't I be normal? Why can't I be different? Why can't I be tougher? Why am I so weak? What's wrong with me? Challenge those thoughts and don't believe them, because they might be deeply ingrained in you, but it doesn't mean that they're true. And my last episode goes more deeply into reframing anxiety and how that can change your life as someone with anxiety. But instead of thinking those thoughts, challenge them. Ask yourself, what is my body telling me that it needs right now? Because anxiety symptoms are always a sign. It's always your body trying to communicate with you that it needs something. And it can feel really, really scary. And it can feel like you've done something wrong and that you are bad. You internalize it like you are bad and you are flawed. But the truth is that the criticism of yourself is only going to worsen your symptoms and heighten your anxiety and your tension. And this is much easier said than done. And this change, this switch, this mental shift does not happen overnight. It takes a lot of practice in my experience, but continuing to practice it and continuing to try your best to shift out of the fear-based thinking, the shameful thinking, and into the self-compassion, caring for yourself, challenging your thoughts, and leaning into giving yourself what you need. Over time, this helps you to build self-confidence, self-worth, self-compassion, self-trust, and these are all things that are extremely low when you're someone who deals with anxiety, especially as a highly sensitive person, because you've likely felt and been told your whole life that you are weak, you are less than, and there is something wrong with you. So it makes sense that you feel this way and that you have these thoughts and that you might struggle with this, but we know that that is not true, and we don't have to believe that for the rest of our lives. Being a highly sensitive person does not mean that you're doomed to feel anxious forever. Trust me, I have been there, I have felt that way, or maybe you do a lot of work to get yourself out of that state and you come to a good place, but then you fall right back into getting so overstimulated, so overwhelmed, which leads you to feeling so anxious and maybe even burning out. And that's just a loop that you're in, and you feel like because you're so sensitive and that you feel things so deeply and that you take on the emotions of others and that you're affected by things that don't seem to affect others, that this is just the way that you're meant to live. I promise you, as someone who's been there, that is not true. And this doesn't have to be your story forever. You can live as an empowered, highly sensitive person. And that doesn't mean that there might not be tough times, and there might not be times where you're feeling more overwhelmed or more overstimulated than usual, where you're feeling anxiety, but it doesn't have to consume your entire life. It is possible to support yourself and to reframe your mindset and to reframe how you experience this life. You can live your life as a highly sensitive person without being consumed by anxiety, tension, overwhelm, and overstimulation at all times. It just means that you need to build a life that works with your sensitivity instead of fighting against it and wishing it away and wishing that things were different. Because it is a biological trait. Your nervous system is literally wired differently, so we're not going to change that, but we can change how we support ourselves to change the way we experience this life and to heal and to grow. So you might need more rest. You might need more boundaries. You might need to be more gentle with yourself. You might need to communicate with others your needs. You might need more alone time. And that is all okay. You are not too much. You are not weak. You are just highly attuned and deeply sensitive to the subtleties in life, and that is a gift in a world that is often so disconnected. If this episode resonated with you, please feel free to share it with another sensitive soul. You never know who needs to hear that they're not alone in what they're feeling or experiencing. Sometimes just being able to relate to others can be the most healing, helpful thing to someone. And if you're looking for tools to help you feel more grounded and supported, I have guided meditations on YouTube and on whatever podcast platform you're listening to right now. You can book a distance Reiki healing session with me. It is linked in the description below. And everything that I share because of how it has genuinely changed my life and improved my life, my mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, overall health and wellness as a highly sensitive person. And my intention is that what I share can resonate with you as well. I would love to hear from you, as always, on Instagram at ebbsandflows222, or send me a fan mail. I now have fan mail on the podcast descriptions. It's the first line. It says connect with Erin. You can click on that and you can send me a text. I would love to hear from you guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. Remember, your sensitivities are your superpowers. I'm sending a lot of love and gratitude, and I will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.